The plains of Nebraska stretched endlessly, a vast expanse of golden grass that danced under the relentless wind. The landscape was both beautiful and brutal, a testament to nature's fierce power. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows that seemed to whisper tales of hardship and survival. Cold air bit at Hannah O'Malley's cheeks as she knelt on the ground, her fingers clawing desperately at the frozen earth. Each scrape against the hard soil felt like a battle against an unforgiving world. The isolation here was suffocating. Settlers, drawn by dreams of land and opportunity, often found themselves alone and unprotected. Homes were few and far between, and the nearest town was a small cluster of wooden buildings that offered little more than fleeting companionship. Many who settled in this harsh land carried with them hopes for a better life. Yet they also faced the reality of loneliness, harsh weather, and suspicion from others. Hannah's heart ached with an unbearable weight as she thought of her husband, taken too soon. Their lives had been filled with shared laughter and dreams, but now those dreams lay cold beneath the hard ground. The townsfolk had turned their backs on him, on her. He was Irish, poor, and trapped in a web of rumors that painted him as a smuggler. The whispers of doubt and distrust echoed in her mind as she recalled their faces, hard and unyielding. No one would help her. No one wanted to be associated with someone like him. As dusk began to settle around her, shrouding the plains in shades of gray and purple, Hannah's fingers trembled with exhaustion and despair. She could feel the chill creeping into her bones, but it was nothing compared to the coldness that filled her heart. She was utterly alone in her grief, surrounded only by the vast emptiness of land that mirrored her sorrow. Just as hopelessness threatened to consume her, she heard a sound, the sharp strike of metal against the ground. A shovel pierced the silence beside her. Startled, she turned to see a figure emerging from the shadows. He wore a miner's coat, tattered but sturdy, and his hands were stained with coal dust, evidence of hard work and toil. His presence was unexpected, yet oddly comforting in that moment. He didn't say a word. Instead, he quietly began to dig. The rhythmic thud of the shovel hitting the earth broke through Hannah's despair like a lifeline thrown into turbulent waters. She watched him with tear-filled eyes, unsure how to respond. Who was this man? Why did he come? But those questions slipped away as she focused on his actions, a simple act that spoke volumes. With every scoop of dirt he removed, Hannah felt a flicker of warmth in her chest. This stranger understood her pain without needing to speak. He moved with purpose and care, as if he knew the importance of this moment. As she wept silently beside him, she realized that in this desolate place, he had chosen to be present when no one else would. Time seemed to lose its meaning as they worked together, one digging, the other grieving. The sky darkened into a deep blue, stars beginning to twinkle overhead like distant memories of happier times. The wind still howled across the plains, but it felt less menacing now. With each shovelful of dirt that piled up beside them, Hannah felt an unexpected connection growing between her and Elias Boone. As he continued to dig, she found herself thinking about all those who had ignored her pleas for help. The townspeople who turned away from her suffering were now distant figures in her mind. Here was this silent man, offering his strength when others had shown none. It was an act of kindness that felt monumental in its simplicity. Eventually, Elias paused his digging and looked down at the hole he had created. A resting place not just for her husband but also for Hannah's hopes and dreams. She could feel a sense of relief wash over her. This grave would not only mark an end, but also serve as a reminder that compassion can still exist even in the harshest circumstances. Though he remained silent, Elias seemed to understand the weight of the moment perfectly. He stood by her side as she leaned down to touch her husband's face one last time, whispering words of love and farewell that danced on the cold evening air. With each passing second, Hannah realized how significant this moment was. It was more than just a burial. It was an acknowledgement of love amidst loss. Together, they honored her husband's memory under the vast Nebraska sky, where stars began to emerge like glimmers of hope in an otherwise dark night. In that desolate landscape where isolation loomed large, Hannah discovered that sometimes connection is found in unexpected places, even among strangers who choose to stand beside you when you need it most. Hannah O'Malley had always been a woman of resilience and warmth, qualities that flourished even in the face of adversity. Born in Ireland, she had crossed the ocean with dreams of a better life, only to find herself in the vast, unforgiving plains of Nebraska. The journey had tested her spirit, but it was her love for her husband, Patrick, that kept her anchored amid the storms of uncertainty. Together, they had built a modest life, filled with laughter and simple joys. In their small cabin, the walls echoed with memories, the sound of Patrick's hearty laughter during long winter nights and the smell of bread baking in their little stove. Hannah often found solace in their shared routines, whether tending to their small vegetable garden or listening to Patrick recount tales of his youth. He had a way of making even the most mundane moments feel extraordinary, and Hannah cherished every second they spent together. However, as the harsh Nebraska winters set in, life began to take its toll. They faced challenges that tested their resolve: crop failures, scarcity of resources, and whispers from neighbors who viewed them with suspicion. Patrick's Irish heritage became a weight they bore silently. Despite their hard work and honest intentions, rumors swirled around them like autumn leaves caught in a gust of wind. Some claimed he was involved in smuggling, a label that seemed to stick purely because of his background. The townspeople turned away from them, leaving Hannah feeling more isolated than ever. Yet, through it all, her love for Patrick remained steadfast. She believed in his goodness and integrity. He was not just her husband, but her partner and best friend. The thought of losing him felt like losing a part of herself. When news came that Patrick had fallen ill, Hannah's heart raced with fear. She cared for him day and night, hoping against hope that he would recover. But illness is often an unyielding foe. Despite her tireless efforts and prayers whispered into the night, he succumbed to his sickness one fateful evening. The loss shattered her world into pieces. Now, kneeling over his lifeless body on the cold ground felt surreal. Hannah's fingers clawed at the frozen earth as she fought against despair. The landscape around her mirrored her heart, barren and desolate, while memories flooded her mind like a rushing river. She could still hear his voice, feel his presence beside her, as if he would rise at any moment and reassure her that everything would be all right. But there was nothing but silence now. Desperation drove her to dig with bare hands, despite the biting cold that seeped into her bones. She wanted desperately to give him a proper burial. It was the least she could do for the man who had filled her life with joy and meaning. With every scrape of dirt against her skin, she felt the enormity of her loss weigh heavier on her heart. As darkness began to settle around her like a heavy blanket, despair threatened to drown her spirit completely. In those moments of isolation and anguish, she felt the world closing in on her. A cruel reminder that no one from town would help because they deemed him unworthy due to his heritage and whispered rumors. But even amidst this bleak reality, Hannah's determination only grew stronger. She remembered how Patrick always encouraged her not to back down from challenges, no matter how insurmountable they appeared. "We'll face it together," he would say, with a smile that could light up even the darkest days. With those words echoing in her heart, she continued digging fiercely. Just when she thought hope had abandoned her entirely, she heard the sound of metal striking earth beside her. It startled her from her thoughts as she turned to see a figure emerging from the shadows, Elias Boone. Without uttering a word, he began to dig alongside her. His coal-stained hands moved methodically through the dirt, as if he understood the weight of what they were doing without needing to speak. Hannah watched him for a moment in awe. Here was a stranger who chose to stand beside her when everyone else turned away. He didn't ask questions or offer empty platitudes. He simply worked alongside her in silence. In this shared grief over Patrick's death, though they were both strangers, Hannah found an unexpected comfort in his presence. It felt as if Elias understood what it meant to lose someone dear without needing an explanation. As they dug together beneath the darkening sky, she realized she was not alone in this moment. Someone else was aware of the pain she carried. The grave they dug became more than just a resting place for Patrick. It symbolized both an end and a new beginning for Hannah, as she embraced this moment with bittersweet gratitude. In that instant, under the vast Nebraska sky, among strangers brought together by tragedy, Hannah found strength she didn't know she possessed. Strength born from love and unexpected compassion amidst sorrow. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a dim light across the small Nebraska town as Hannah O'Malley fought against the cold, hard ground. The biting wind whipped around her. But it wasn't just the chill in the air that left her feeling frozen. It was the rejection she had faced from those who once seemed like neighbors. In earlier days, when Hannah and Patrick first arrived in Nebraska, they had been filled with hope and excitement. They had dreams of building a life together on the open plains, where they could cultivate their land and bask in the warmth of a welcoming community. But as time went on, their reality began to shift. The small wooden buildings that made up the town were filled with people who whispered behind closed doors about the newcomers. The O'Malley's Irish heritage became a source of suspicion rather than a badge of honor. Rumors began to swirl around them like autumn leaves caught in a gust of wind. Some townsfolk claimed that Patrick was involved in smuggling goods across borders, an accusation that seemed to stick purely because of his background. As whispers spread through the town, eyes turned away from their plight. Neighbors they had once smiled at now cast glances filled with judgment and disdain. It hurt Hannah deeply to see how quickly kindness could turn into cruelty. She remembered moments when they had shared laughter over simple meals or helped each other during harvest times. But now, those memories felt like ghosts haunting her in this moment of despair. When Patrick fell ill, she reached out for help but found only closed doors and cold shoulders. Why don't they see him for who he truly is? She often wondered, frustration boiling within her. To them, he was not just an Irishman. He was a poor laborer whom they believed brought trouble to their town. They saw him through a distorted lens, tainted by prejudice and fear, rather than recognizing his hard work or good heart. As Patrick's health declined, Hannah's desperation grew alongside her love for him. She sought help from several neighbors but got nothing but scornful looks or muttered refusals. "We can't be seen helping him," one woman had said sharply, as if assisting them might tarnish her own reputation. It felt as if walls were closing in around Hannah. She was trapped not only by grief but also by an unyielding sense of isolation fostered by those who should have been allies. On the day he passed away, Hannah's heart shattered into countless pieces, not only from losing Patrick but also from feeling completely abandoned at such a critical moment. As she knelt over his body on that cold ground, her heart cried out for compassion that never came from anyone else in town. The shadows lengthened as dusk settled around her like a heavy cloak. The wind howled mournfully through the empty streets while Hannah clawed at frozen dirt with bare hands. determined to give him a proper burial, despite having no one to support her efforts. The thought that crossed her mind again and again was how odd it was that those who professed strong Christian values would turn their backs on someone in need simply because of heritage and false accusations. In moments like these, when grief consumed her thoughts, it hurt more than anything else could ever do. Hannah dug deeper into the earth, feeling both anger and sorrow well up inside her chest simultaneously. He deserved better, she whispered into the silence around her, believing every word as tears streamed down her cheeks. Each scrape against the soil felt like an uphill battle against not just physical pain but emotional anguish too. Just then, as if summoned by her resolve or perhaps out of sheer fate itself, she heard another sound, metal striking dirt beside her, a rhythmic thud disrupting the silence surrounding this lonely graveyard scene. Startled at first, Hannah turned to see Elias Boone emerging from the shadows with coal-stained hands and an expression that conveyed understanding without words, an unspoken acknowledgement of shared suffering that resonated deep within her soul. His presence felt solid amidst all that overwhelming emptiness. Here was someone willing to stand beside her when everyone else had chosen to look away. Without saying anything at all, just grabbing his shovel, he began digging alongside her as if he knew exactly what this moment meant for both of them. In this gesture of solidarity against all odds, the townspeople's rejection faded into distant memory. Hannah found unexpected strength blossoming within herself amid such sorrowful circumstances. The warmth emanating between two strangers digging together under cold skies reminded her that even amidst isolation and prejudice, there existed paths toward connection forged through shared grief and compassion. As they worked together under darkening skies, with stars beginning to twinkle above them like distant beacons of hope, illuminating their shared burden beneath its weighty shroud. Their silent understanding created a sanctuary where humanity triumphed over fear and hatred just outside town limits, proving there could still be kindness found even when society failed its own best intentions altogether. Hannah O'Malley knelt on the frozen ground, her heart heavy with a grief that felt all-consuming. The biting cold seeped through her dress, numbing her fingers as she clawed at the dirt, desperately trying to dig a grave for the man she loved more than life itself. Each scrape against the hardened soil felt like an echo of her sorrow, a physical manifestation of the pain gripping her heart. The sun had dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that danced eerily across the barren plains. Despite the chill in the air, Hannah felt an inner fire fueled by desperation and despair. She could hardly believe this was real, that just hours ago she had been sharing loving words with Patrick, and now he lay lifeless before her. It was as if a cruel twist of fate had stolen away all that was good in her life, leaving behind only emptiness. Her mind raced with memories of their time together, the laughter they shared over simple meals and quiet evenings spent wrapped in each other's warmth. Patrick had always been her rock, and now that foundation lay shattered beneath her. Anguish twisted in her gut as she thought about everything he would miss. Their dreams of growing old together, raising children on the land they had worked so hard to cultivate, and finding joy in each other's company amidst life's hardships. As she dug deeper into the frost-bitten earth, tears streamed down Hannah's cheeks. She didn't care who saw. She didn't even know if anyone was watching. The townspeople had turned their backs on them long ago because of prejudice and false accusations surrounding Patrick. All those whispers of suspicion about smuggling felt like knives stabbing into Hannah's already broken heart. They painted him as less than who he truly was, a hard-working man striving for a better life despite their harsh circumstances. "Why won't anyone help?" she cried aloud into the chilly evening air, feeling utterly alone in her sorrow. It was no longer just about losing Patrick. It was also about losing hope in humanity itself. How could people profess to be kind, yet allow their biases to override compassion? The thought churned within her like a storm that refused to settle. With every thrust of her hands into the icy dirt, she imagined reaching for Patrick one last time, grasping his warm hand instead of this frigid earth beneath her nails. The ache within her chest grew more profound as despair threatened to swallow her whole. Each breath, punctuated by sobs, echoed loudly against the quiet landscape. It felt like a final farewell to the man who had filled her life with love and laughter. Hannah paused for just a moment, glancing down at his peaceful face shrouded in shadows cast by dusk's arrival. She noticed how serene he looked despite everything, like he was merely asleep after a long day's work rather than lost forever from this world. "I will give you what you deserve," she whispered fervently through tears, determination replacing uncertainty in her voice. "I will not leave you here alone." As she returned to digging with renewed vigor, anger mixed with grief surged through Hannah's veins like fire coursing through ice water. It fueled each effort into carving out a resting place for Patrick, a refuge from not only this world, but also from those who chose to turn away when kindness was needed most. Just then, breaking through that heavy silence, came another sound. The soft strike of metal against dirt beside her startled Hannah momentarily out of her spiraling thoughts. Her heart raced as she turned toward it instinctively. There stood Elias Boone, a stranger whose coal-stained hands spoke volumes more than any words ever could. His presence offered an unexpected comfort amidst despair. Here was someone willing to join Hannah in this painstaking task without hesitation or judgment clouding his intent. As they worked side by side under darkening skies filled with stars beginning to twinkle above them, like distant hopes illuminating their shared burden, she realized that while grief remained potent within herself, it did not have to be faced alone anymore. The rhythmic sound of shovels striking earth became almost soothing amid chaos swirling inside Hannah's heart. It reminded her that connection could exist even between strangers united by loss, and that perhaps humanity wasn't entirely lost after all. In those moments spent digging together under vast Nebraska skies, surrounded by both darkness and light, Hannah found solace blooming amidst sorrow as understanding blossomed between two souls, brought together through tragedy, forging an unbreakable bond born out of desperation and shared pain that somehow made both feel less alone in their respective journeys toward healing going forward. As Hannah knelt on the windswept plains, lost in her grief and despair, the silence surrounding her was suddenly broken by an unexpected sound, the soft thud of a shovel striking the ground nearby. Startled, she glanced up through tear-filled eyes to see a tall figure emerging from the fading light of dusk. He was a stranger to her, but something about his presence felt oddly reassuring amidst her sorrow. Elias Boone was a man marked by years of toil and hardship, his appearance telling stories without uttering a single word. He wore a heavy miner's coat that hung loose on his tall frame, its fabric worn and dusty from countless days spent laboring underground. The coat, while rugged and practical for protecting against harsh weather, gave him an air of resilience. Beneath it, his shirt was tattered but clean, a testament to his own hard life despite its unremarkable appearance. His hands were strikingly coal-stained. Blackened grime found refuge in the creases of his palms and under his nails, evidence of countless hours spent in dark mines where he earned a meager living. Each hand bore the marks of hard work, calloused fingertips from years of using tools and rough fibers of rope. Elias's strong hands spoke to Hannah more than any words ever could. They conveyed solidarity in action and an understanding that transcended their silent exchange. In contrast to the townspeople who had shunned her during this most profound moment of need, Elias Boone exuded compassion simply by choosing to stand beside her as she faced the grief of losing Patrick. Where others turned away due to prejudice, whispering behind closed doors about their suspicions, Elias stood solid as a rock against the harsh winds both outside and within Hannah's heart. His face was weathered yet kind. Deep-set eyes held a depth that seemed to reflect understanding and strength far beyond his simple demeanor. There were no fancy gestures or empty platitudes offered. Instead, he offered Hannah unwavering presence, a gift she had long thought lost alongside her husband. As he moved with purpose beside her, digging through the frozen earth with solemn efficiency, she felt an unexpected warmth bloom amidst her desolation. For those brief moments together under the growing dark sky, Hannah discovered something remarkable. Amid overwhelming loss came also hope in human connection. She realized that though Elias did not know her or Patrick's struggles personally, he too had felt loss and pain, as if they shared an invisible thread connecting their hearts. He worked tirelessly beside her without hesitation or expectations, just as any good neighbor might have done if prejudices had not clouded their judgments. Hannah found herself oddly comforted, not just by Elias's silent company, but also by his determination to offer assistance when so many others had refused. The very act of them digging together symbolized more than just creating a grave for Patrick. It represented humanity at its most essential level, a connection that defied societal norms wrapped in distrust and fear. As they continued working side by side through layers of frozen soil intercut with memories both poignant and painful, every shovel full of dirt revealed layers not only belonging to Patrick, but also pieces buried within herself yearning for light. With each strike echoed memories, the laughter shared over meals cooked together and tender whispers exchanged during quiet nights, now combined into something new. Friendship forged through grief. The wind howled around them. It wrapped tightly against their bodies like nature itself mourning alongside Hannah for what was lost too soon, while simultaneously nurturing the seeds planted amidst sorrowful soil. Stars began dotting the emerging night sky above them, tiny beacons promising brighter days ahead, permeating through feelings once wrought with only darkness. Hannah looked over at Elias as they took turns alternating strokes against stubborn earth. Her spirit lifted slightly through shared purpose with someone unclouded by bitterness or prejudice standing alongside her through it all. In this moment, she thought, even when faced with tragedy and despair, I am not entirely alone. This newfound companionship reshaped shadows cast across their lives into beams filled with shared hope. A recognition that true kindness exists still among hardship if one dares open up enough heart. Even in places where suspicion reigns supreme, over compassion might flourish unexpectedly. Together, they formed an alliance grounded firmly upon mutual understanding. Forever changed by grief, yet inspired anew by the connection found between two strangers devoted at least for one fleeting moment toward honoring love lost beneath vast Nebraska skies, transforming even barren fields into fertile grounds for healing journeys going forward. As Hannah O'Malley knelt in the cold, unforgiving dirt, despair weighed heavy in her heart. The world around her felt desolate and empty, much like the soul-crushing loneliness that gripped her since losing Patrick. Just when the shadows of grief seemed to envelop her entirely, a soft but steady sound disrupted the silence, a shovel striking the earth beside her. Startled, she turned her tear-streaked face toward the sound and saw Elias Boone. The quiet man appeared from the dusk, his figure outlined against the darkening sky. He bore the marks of his labor, coal-stained hands and a rugged miner's coat that hung loosely on his tall frame. There was no fanfare about him. He simply arrived as if fate had guided him to this very moment when Hannah needed a lifeline more than ever. Without saying a word, Elias began to dig beside her. Each scoop of dirt seemed intentional and deliberate, as if he understood both the gravity of the situation and the weight resting on Hannah's heart. It was a simple act, but held profound significance. Here was someone willing to share in her pain without needing to voice platitudes or offer hollow reassurances. In that moment, words felt inadequate. What they both needed was action. The first few shovelfuls of dirt echoed through Hannah's sorrowful haze, like distant thunder rumbling across open plains. It didn't erase her pain, but provided a rhythm, the kind that steadied frantic thoughts swirling in her mind like autumn leaves caught in an icy wind. She watched as Elias worked with unwavering focus, creating an opening for Patrick, treating it as respectfully as one rightfully should. Hannah's fingers trembled as she scraped away at the hardened ground beside him, a futile attempt suddenly infused with new purpose. The task felt lighter somehow. She no longer felt completely isolated beneath layers of grief because someone else stood beside her, someone who shared this painful burden in silent understanding. In an era when prejudice and disdain estranged them from their neighbors, Elias became an unexpected reminder that kindness existed still amongst humanity. As they dug together under the growing night sky, Hannah found herself mesmerized by this solitary man whose presence offered solace where despair had dwelled just moments before. His unique calmness contrasted sharply against everything she had experienced leading up to this moment. The judgmental stares and whispers of neighbors who turned their backs when compassion was most needed. The ground breathed beneath their work. Each cut into the soil revealed remnants, not just of Patrick, but also buried pieces of herself, longing for light amid shadows cast by societal conventions surrounding them back in town, wrapped tightly around suspicion fueled by fear and unfounded rumors. With every stroke of Elias's shovel cutting through frozen earth came a flicker of warmth spreading through Hannah's heart, a reminder that life's simplest acts could carry great meaning. His silent support spoke volumes more than any kind words could have ever conveyed. It told her that together they honored Patrick's memory while skirting around those harsh beliefs created by others who failed to see beyond skin-deep prejudices. The wind howled softly around them, even as darkness settled upon this shared, grief-filled space. A gentle acknowledgement from nature itself, mourning what was lost too soon, while becoming custodians together over precious memories interred within heartbreak, now given form within layered soil instead. In those quiet moments, she felt hope take root amidst sorrow. It brought forth something belonging to humanity often overlooked, the power found in connection through mutual struggle. Elias did not need to speak, for his actions alone formed an unbreakable bond between two souls, hidden behind walls built high from loss and rejection. Together, they crafted more than just a grave. They created fertile ground for healing where once there had only been isolation, each scoop yielding not only tears but also newfound strength stemming from shared experience, etched into both their hearts forevermore. As stars began to twinkle overhead like beacons lighting dark paths ahead, waiting to be found, Hannah noticed how comfortable silence could be when steeped in understanding without expectation or judgment, clouding intentions between those digging together under vast Nebraska skies endlessly entwined with fate itself, leading towards brighter days yet unseen, waiting only for voices brave enough to embrace life once again, even through hardship endured side by side. As the night deepened around them, Hannah and Elias worked side by side in silence, their shared experience weaving an invisible bond that grew stronger with each passing moment. Though neither spoke a word, their actions spoke volumes. With every shovelful of dirt removed, they communicated in a language far deeper than words, one spoken through empathy, sorrow, and an undeniable connection forged from suffering. The cold wind swept across the plains, rustling the grass and carrying with it the weight of loss. In those quiet moments of digging together, the world outside melted away. The scornful whispers of townsfolk faded into the background as Hannah found solace beside Elias, a man she had never met but who seemed to understand her heartache without needing to ask. It was a rare comfort in a time when isolation felt suffocating. Elias's steady rhythm as he dug into the earth resonated harmoniously with Hannah's own frantic efforts. She found herself mirroring his motion, not out of obligation, but as a way to connect through their common struggle. Each scoop they took reverberated within her soul, filling her with a sense of purpose that had been lost in the depths of her despair. The trust built between them felt palpable. It was as if they were creating a sanctuary together, a sacred space to honor Patrick amid the raw emotions swirling around them. Hannah glanced over at Elias as he wiped the sweat from his brow and focused his gaze on the task at hand. In that moment, something shifted within her. She understood he was not just helping dig a grave for her husband, he was bearing his own pain alongside hers. They were both wrestling with loss that felt far too heavy for one person to bear alone. It was an unspoken acknowledgement that connected their hearts even further. The stars above began to shine brightly against the backdrop of night, tiny flickers illuminating their work below, as if nature itself were watching over them. Hannah felt tears threaten to spill anew, not just for her husband, but also for this stranger who had arrived at a time when she felt completely abandoned. Elias Boone's presence reminded her that even in suffering, kindness could emerge unexpectedly. As they continued digging together under the vast sky, moments passed where no words were needed. Every shared action became meaningful, creating hope amid despair and warmth within numbness. The simple act of laboring side by side ushered in an acceptance of their grief while forging something new. Companionship formed not through chatter or pleasantries, but through mutual understanding steeped in loss. In this unlikeliest of places, on barren Nebraska soil where life seemed harsh and unyielding, something tender was born between two broken souls, finding healing amidst hardship together. With each stroke against frozen earth came feelings once stifled. Memories flooded back. Reminders of laughter shared with Patrick mixed together now, with Elias's silent support woven deeply into Hannah's heart. Their bond blossomed quietly yet profoundly. It broke down walls built high by prejudice on one side, while nurturing compassionate connections all around, like wildflowers sprouting unexpectedly in dry fields after rain showers have passed through. Here lay solace found amidst sorrow, a precious discovery in dark times where hope flickered dimly during moments pressed under life's weighty burdens left behind by judgmental glances from others. Time slipped away undetected, the rhythmic sound of shovels striking dirt becoming a gentle rhythm, soothing their wounds like balm upon scrapes forgotten long ago during childhood games played under sunlit skies. Instead, filled now with starry brilliance surrounding these moments captured beneath vast open heavens. Hannah marveled at how connection could thrive even without words spoken aloud. How silence filled with shared struggles carried profound meaning when rooted deeply within layers of heartbreak shaped into understanding, from finally embracing vulnerability amidst compassion turned tangible. Elias remained steadfast even as darker clouds rolled overhead. He symbolized humanity's ability to rise above fear and distrust while extending hands toward what could be instead. It brought warmth against bitter circumstances while showcasing profound strength displayed quietly alongside gentleness born out of empathy, illuminating their paths going forward, no matter how uncertain they appeared after enduring so much, already united amongst different backgrounds, forever changed through this shared journey toward healing together amidst loss forevermore. As the night deepened and the stars blanketed the Nebraska sky, Hannah O'Malley and Elias Boone continued their solemn task together. With every scoop of dirt they removed, a new sense of community began to take shape in that desolate landscape. It was a community born not of shared backgrounds or familiar ties, but of a profound understanding rooted in shared sorrow and compassion, the kind of connection often overlooked in times of hardship. In those moments, the harshness of the plains transformed into something poignant and beautiful. The biting cold that had once felt suffocating now served as a reminder of the warmth that could arise from acts of kindness. Like the silent support Elias provided simply by being there, Hannah felt her heart begin to thaw amidst the grief that had wrapped around her so tightly since Patrick's death. This unexpected companionship sparked hope when everything else seemed bleak. Elias worked diligently, his strong hands laboring alongside hers with no expectation of reward or recognition. Unlike the townspeople who had turned away from her suffering, he chose to stand beside her, embodying what true community should represent: unwavering support during times of need. In this unforgiving environment, where judgments were drawn quickly and compassion was scarce, Elias became a beacon of light, a reminder that humanity still existed even in the darkest places. Hannah reflected on how often she had felt isolated since arriving in Nebraska, surrounded by whispers and disdain from those who could not see beyond her husband's Irish heritage. Now, here was Elias, a man from whom she had never sought help, but who somehow understood the depths of her despair without asking any questions. Together, they created a bond transcending words. It was an unspoken agreement to honor Patrick's memory through their joint labor, a testament to resilience in the face of adversity. As they dug deeper into the earth, Hannah realized that this connection was not only about honoring Patrick, but also about embracing a renewed sense of belonging forged through shared hardship. Each shovelful lifted revealed not only layers of dirt, but also layers of pain slowly being unearthed from within. Tears flowed freely down her cheeks, not solely for her husband, but also for the realization that kindness could still flourish amid prejudice. The wind swirled around them as if nature itself were echoing their commitment to creating something meaningful together. The darkness that had once felt oppressive began to lighten as stars twinkled like distant memories above them. Hannah found herself smiling through her tears as she watched Elias work. His steady presence felt like an anchor in tumultuous waters. In those quiet moments under the vast sky, the importance of community became clear. It is not merely about being surrounded by familiar faces or places. It is about being connected through shared experiences and mutual understanding, even when those connections are formed unexpectedly in times of tragedy. Their silent companionship served as a reminder that support can come from unlikely sources, offering hope where despair had once reigned. With every scoop that filled the grave they were digging for Patrick, Hannah felt slivers of healing begin to seep into her heart, a subtle recognition that she no longer stood alone in her grief. The act of digging together became a collaborative effort marked by respect for what had been lost while simultaneously crafting space for what might be found anew, hope interwoven with loss. Elias's presence infused warmth into their shared silence, transforming it from an echo chamber reflecting loneliness into fertile ground for companionship to blossom amidst sorrow. Through this connection, Hannah realized she wasn't just honoring Patrick's memory, she was also nurturing seeds of friendship, cultivated through vulnerability and strength displayed by both individuals willing to embrace hardship together. As they continued working tirelessly under ever-starry skies, Hannah felt a shift within herself. Despair gave way to determination, tinged with gratitude toward this stranger who chose kindness over indifference. It was a powerful reminder of how community threads through humanity's fabric, uniting those who dare extend hands towards one another even when faced with their own burdens. In the end, it was more than just digging a grave. It was about reclaiming life from loss while fostering new connections amidst barren landscapes filled with heartache and sorrow. Together, they transformed an act meant solely for farewell into one resonating with life's enduring spirit. Their connection signified hope thriving amidst despair, a testament to humanity's ability to rise above even the harshest realities encountered within life's journey toward healing. As the last shovelfuls of dirt were laid aside, the grave began to take shape, a small sanctuary crafted in the cold earth of the Nebraska plains. The moon hung low in the sky, casting a soft light over Hannah and Elias, illuminating the moment that felt both heavy with sorrow and light with shared purpose. The air was thick with emotion as they paused for a moment, their breaths mingling with the cool night air, both feeling the weight of what lay before them. Once they had finished digging, Hannah knelt down beside her husband's body one final time. She gently spread a cloth over him, trying to smooth it down as if putting him to bed after a long day's work. Every movement felt tender and deliberate. It was her way of showing love in a moment steeped in finality. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she whispered words only meant for Patrick. "I will always love you," she said softly, her voice shaky but resolute. "You deserve so much more than this cruel world has given you." Elias stood by silently, his coal-stained hands resting by his sides, providing a calm presence that enveloped Hannah in warmth during this unbearable moment. He understood without needing to intrude on her grief. He felt the reverberations of her sorrow deep within his own heart. The gesture of being there, simply standing witness, was an act of kindness that transcended words. It spoke volumes in ways that phrases of comfort could not. As Hannah gently lowered Patrick into the grave, she steadied herself against the harsh reality that this was goodbye. In doing so, she was not only mourning the loss of her husband but also all their dreams together, the plans for children, laughter-filled evenings, and shared moments that now seemed like distant whispers on the wind. Each heartbeat echoed in her ears like a countdown to an ending she could barely fathom. Elias moved closer, kneeling beside her at the edge of the grave as she placed flowers, wild flowers they had picked together in happier times, on top of Patrick's still form. The delicate blooms contrasted sharply against the cold earth. Their vibrant colors flaunted life even amidst grief. It was a poignant reminder of how love endures beyond physical absence. Hannah felt overwhelming gratitude toward Elias in that moment. He had become more than just a stranger helping her dig a grave. He had become an anchor amid turbulent waters. Together, they honored Patrick's memory through their actions, through silent solidarity and shared understanding that transcended societal prejudices that would have kept them apart. Elias reached out, gently placing his hand on Hannah's shoulder, a simple touch filled with compassion and support that reminded her she was not alone in this sorrowful moment. She turned to him, eyes shimmering with tears, yet softened by appreciation for his unwavering presence. "Thank you," she murmured, aware that words could hardly encapsulate all she felt. He nodded slightly, his expression solemn yet reassuring. They were united in this moment of loss while simultaneously crafting a new beginning, a story woven from grief and resilience. With the grave prepared and Patrick laid to rest, they both began to refill it slowly with dirt, an act that felt almost sacred as they covered him once more with earth from which he had come. Each scoop resonated with memories shared between Hannah and Patrick, while simultaneously marking a new chapter in Hannah's life. One where hope began to sprout amongst despair. The rhythmic sound of dirt hitting dirt seemed to echo across the plains. It became a kind of lullaby for Patrick's journey into eternity, the promise that he would never truly be forgotten, even if he no longer walked alongside her on this earth. This ritual marked not just an end, but also an acknowledgement of all that had been shared. Laughter during sunny days and quiet whispers late at night when dreams were born. As they finished covering the grave beneath the stars, twinkling overhead like tiny beacons shining against darkness, Hannah felt solace settling into her heart. A recognition that while grief can often feel isolating, acts of kindness create pathways toward healing when least expected. Together in silence, they stood at the newly formed mound where Patrick now rested peacefully, two souls transformed by adversity, yet connected through compassion amid heartache, unfurling like petals, opening toward sunlight after stormy weather has passed. In this fragile yet powerful ceremony of remembrance, a burial filled with love, they sealed not only Patrick's story, but also forged an unbreakable bond between themselves, one built on shared understanding amid suffering, where friendship could blossom even when life had dealt them cruel hands. As the last remnants of dirt were carefully placed over the grave, the weight of finality settled upon Hannah O'Malley like a heavy blanket. Yet beneath that weight lay the faintest glimmer of something new, a beginning. She stood alongside Elias Boone, gazing at the freshly turned earth now housing her husband, Patrick. The stars twinkled above them, seemingly nodding in acknowledgement of the profound ceremony that had just unfolded, as if they too understood the significance of this moment. Hannah felt an unexpected sense of calm wash over her, mingled with the pain of loss. In this desolate landscape where she had once felt so profoundly alone and rejected by those who shared her home, she found herself surrounded by an uncharted warmth. This grave was not merely a place of sorrow, it marked a sacred space where grief could coexist with hope and resilience, reminding her that life continued even when faced with death. The sky deepened into darker shades of blue, and the night air turned crisp as she turned to face Elias, who remained quietly steadfast by her side. His coal-stained hands and weathered features reflected the experience of a man who had endured much in his life. In silence, they had forged an understanding that transcended the spoken word, an unspoken agreement to honor Patrick's memory and embrace the shift that was overtaking Hannah's heart. As Hannah wiped away the tears that threatened to spill again, she realized that this act of burial had transformed her grief into something tangible. It wasn't just about saying goodbye, it was about moving forward. In burying Patrick, she had taken a vital step toward healing, a recognition that she could carry his memory with her while still allowing herself to embrace life again. This grave was a testament to all they had shared, laughter, love, dreams, but also a promise that life would continue. Elias, still kneeling beside her, seemed to sense this shift within Hannah. He turned to look at her, and in that moment she saw not just a stranger but someone who had become part of her story, the first person who chose to support her when everyone else turned their backs. Through his silent presence, he became a symbol of community in times when kinship often faltered in the face of prejudice. He embodied the kindness necessary for healing among those they had encountered. "Thank you," she whispered again, although this time it felt deeper, a heartfelt acknowledgement that resonated within her soul. Elias nodded, a small yet reassuring gesture that spoke volumes about his understanding. There was no need for grand declarations. In their shared silence lay everything they needed: acceptance, support, and a newfound bond formed through hardship. As they rose together from the gravesite, Hannah felt a lightness begin to unfurl within her spirit. The wind played gently around them as if heralding this new chapter. Wrapped in the quiet companionship of Elias, she understood that this grave not only marked an end for Patrick, but also represented new beginnings for her, a chance to forge ahead with renewed strength. The journey would not be easy. There would be days heavied by grief and nights filled with haunting memories. Yet here was Elias, a steadfast friend willing to walk alongside her as she navigated this uncharted territory. She realized that support could come from unexpected places, and that community existed beyond those who shared her history or background. In this barren land where kindness was in short supply, Hannah felt empowered to cultivate human connection deeper than ever before. She would carry Patrick's memory with her as she moved forward, but she would also nurture friendships that blossomed from empathy and understanding, like wildflowers appearing unexpectedly after a long drought. The darkness surrounding them began to dissipate as dawn approached on the horizon, a reminder that light always follows darkness. As the first rays of sun kissed the earth, Hannah made a silent vow to honor Patrick's legacy by embracing life with open arms and an open heart. Elias glanced over at her as they turned away from the grave. And for the first time since that fateful day when they met amidst sorrowful circumstances, Hannah felt a sense of joy creeping back into her heart. Together they walked back toward the path leading homeward, a journey fueled not just by memories of loss but intertwined with hope for what lay ahead. In this way, Hannah O'Malley emerged from despair and into new beginnings, a lesson learned through heartbreak transformed into strength. With Elias beside her, once a stranger but now a friend, she stepped into life's unfolding narrative ready to embrace all its unpredictability. Their shared journey had only just begun. Each step forward echoed with possibility woven within compassion as they walked toward brighter days, waiting just on the horizon.